Hi, welcome computer science students. It's Mr. Amstad here. Today we're going to be taking a look at functions in JavaScript, in particular on Code.org's Game Lab. So right now I have already made a game, I called it Coin Game, in Game Lab here. And it's a simple, I move the alien guy around, I collect coins, and if I get hit by the rock, I lose 5 points. If I get 15 coins, the game is over, I win, and that's the game. Let's just finish the game here, and I win. And that's the game. So I have it written. Let's take a closer look at it here. I have it written a fairly nice way with comments. Hopefully you're at the stage where your code is looking nice and neat like this. At the very top I have our variables, just score. I have the creation of our sprites, the character, the coin, and the falling rock. And then I have our draw loop. And I have a lot of stuff in the draw loop, a lot of stuff. So what we're going to do today is use functions to make the draw loop look a little more organized. So you can see in the draw loop I have the drawing of the background, the gravity for the character when he jumps, the actual player movement when I press the up, right, or left key, the catching of the coin, the getting hit by the rock's movement, showing the score on the screen, checking if the game is over, and of course drawing the sprites on the screen. So let's see how we can organize that a little better. And we're going to do that by creating some functions. So let's make our first function, draw background. And I'm making that name up myself to describe what it's going to do. And what is it going to do? Well, it's going to do the stuff I'm already doing here in the draw loop, right? So I'm just going to cut and paste that code in here. And I don't need this comment anymore. I don't need that comment anymore because the name of the function tells me what it's doing. I don't need to comment everywhere because I'm using names the way they should be. So let's take a quick look at the game running again. Now that I've written my background code in a function called draw background. And we're going to note that the background's not being drawn anymore. I mean, I can still play and it looks kind of cool, but it's definitely not what it should be. And that's because I failed to call this function. It says draw background is defined, but it's not called in your program. So what we need to do is actually use that new function. So let's take a closer look again. And in our draw loop, that's the first thing I want to do is draw that background. So all we have to do is type the name of the function and have a pair of parentheses here. And it will call or use or execute that function I just wrote. So what we're going to do is now create some more functions for each of these different types of things. So the next one is going to be the gravity. So I'm going to make a new function. I'll put it right under here. Function, gravity, parentheses, curly brackets. And then I have all my code inside of it. And there it is. You'll note, again, I get this little gravity's defined. I created it, but it's not called. It's not being used in your program. So I come back up to our draw loop, and I'm going to just type gravity, parentheses, semicolon. And we're going to do this a few more times. Our player movement, I'm going to take all the player movement, and we're going to make a function. I'm just going to call it movement. We'll see why in a bit. So I'm going to put more than just the player's movement in there. And I'm going to leave these comments because they let me and whoever else looks at this code know, oh yeah, that makes the character jump, go up, right, and left. And let's now call movement, parentheses, semicolon. Okay. There's other movement going on. There's also the rock movement. So I'm actually going to take this, I'm going to shove it into that function as well, right after my There we go. And I'll put a little comment here for rock, so we know it's the rock's movement, being in the movement function. Okay. Now we have some interaction going on. We can keep these separate, put them together. I'm going to keep them in separate functions because they definitely represent drastically different interactions. First one is catching the coin, when the character is touching the coin. So let's think up a good name here. Catch coin. That makes sense. That's what I'm doing. And there we go. I just have that if statement. I need to make sure I call catch coin. That checks to see if my character caught the coin or not. Obstacle interaction. So this is if the rock has hit my character. So I'm going to make a new function here at the bottom and call it hit. And that checks to see if the rock hit my character. I call hit. Almost done here. And showing the score. I'm going to put that in its own function as well. Because, you know, I might want to change that later. And now I have a place I can go change what that looks like. Show up score, parentheses, semicolon, get rid of this comment. And last but not least, my end game code. How do I check to see if the game is over? I'm going to make a function and call it endgame or check endgame. That might be a little more accurate because that's what it's doing. It's checking to see if the end of the game has happened. Check. Oops. Make sure you spell them correctly. It is case. Oops, I spelled check again. It is case sensitive. So notice I am doing all of my names of my functions in what's known as camel case. I keep the first letter lowercase, and then when I want a new word, I capitalize that first letter of that word. This is known as camel case. Okay, so now I have basically taken everything in my draw loop and put it into its own function. This is one way of organizing your code. What's nice about using functions in this way is that we get to separate out everything. We get to separate the background code from the gravity code and the movement code and so on. And now we can go to that function. If we need to change it, if we find a bug, we can go to that function and change what it does right there and not have it mixed up with all the other stuff. These are pieces of code that can run independently of each other. That's the key. They can run independently of each other. Now that we've done that, let's run our game here and see and double check to make sure it's still working. It looks like it is. Ooh, I lost 5 points. And let's even go all the way to the end of the game. Ooh, just to make sure the end game is also working. We know the rock and the coin are working. My movement is working. My gravity is working here. Ooh, I really don't want to get hit by another rock. Oh, I just need one more coin. Hey, I won. And now that we're done coding, it is time for you to try it out. Down in the description is a link to the game's original code that you can remix and make the functions yourself. I hope this has been fun. I'll see you next time. Okay, let's play. Oh my goodness, I start the game and I lose 5 points immediately. Let's restart. So now we're going to play the game. And I can't win because I'm very bad at it. Okay, let's change the score to 14. Gotta love editing. And one more coin. Yeah, I win. But I had to change my code to cheat. Oh my goodness. I'm really bad at games. I'm so bad.